It's no question that Dragon Ball is one of the most profitable franchises in media history. Since its creation in 1984, Dragon Ball has only become more of a titan in the industry. Having humble beginnings as a spin on a Chinese novel from the 16th century, it seemed like a simple story about magical adventures. Once that found some success, the series exploded into a media giant that had major influences on 1990s pop culture. Dragon Ball Z, the sequel series, became a household name across the world. Once it found its footing in Western audiences, the influence that it had on the average person's life cannot be understated. Now, if you didn't grow up on it, you're probably confused why a comic and cartoon ended up making such a massive impact on media as a whole. Let's break down why Dragon Ball has been, is, and will be so important to music. Hey everybody, you're watching Playing for Cats. This channel is dedicated to helping animals in need get the help they need. If you love charitable causes, if you love music, if you love reliving nostalgic memories like me, hit subscribe, then check out the links in my channel to donate directly to those causes. Probably my most consumed media franchise of all time, whether it be games, shows, movies, music, goes to either Transformers, Star Wars, or Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball in particular has probably done the most to stay relevant over time. I've been playing the games since before I could probably spell the title to the show, or I was playing with action figures while my brother set up the VHS tapes for me. Now when I turn on the radio or watch a music video for some of my favorite artists, there's no doubt they probably had a very similar experience. But how does a franchise that started across the world blow up to influence music in the West? Dragon Ball as a whole is hilariously simple. At first, it's a funny adventure story, but when it reaches its peak in terms of popularity, it's a show that appeals to almost every guy. The characters have the simple goal of just getting as strong as possible. It's pure testosterone being emitted for hours straight. The characters punch, kick, perform crazy magic tricks, fly, and grapple for almost the entirety of its runtime. If there's anything that young guys love more than anything, it's great fighting. An entire generation of boys was raised watching Dragon Ball Z on Cartoon Network. Some of those boys grew up to become massive artists in the music industry. As we know about music, it's a collection of our biases, experiences, and desires expressed through sound. There's no doubt that something you spent most of your young life thinking about will show up in your adulthood activities. With that in mind, what genres are most commonly associated with violence, flair, dramatics, and creativity? Country does lean towards masculine topics, but misses the originality of being a newer genre. Pop has a similar problem in the fact that it's designed to hit a certain audience every time without straying too far from the formula. Jazz, blues, folk, and other smaller genres are far too calm or quiet to hit this target audience. Rock is getting closer to what we're looking for. The subgenre of rock that fits our description is definitely metal. Metal music, most often described as aggressive, driving, raw, and full of dramatic performances, fits perfectly with the nature of Dragon Ball Z. With grunge becoming a popular genre around the same time that Dragon Ball was taking off in the West, the composers took advantage of the two colliding worlds. With most kids not having the patience to read subtitles to enjoy their show, Dragon Ball had to be dubbed over in English voices. With the recreation of audio for the show, those working on it could add a Western spin to make it more enjoyable for this culture. Bruce Faulconer made an absolute masterpiece of a soundtrack that uses a ton of electronic, rock, and metal influences. Every fight scene is heightened to a new level, just like the characters in the show, when one of his more intense tracks come on. The theme song for the first 50-ish episodes was literally called Rock the Dragon, and it sounds like the chorus of a Beastie Boys song. The movies even had songs from some of the biggest bands in the space like Disturbed, Drowning Pool, Deftones, Sum 41, and a ton of others. When the 2000s came and Dragon Ball Z had cemented itself into every child's memory, music also had some natural progressions. Nu metal formed as a derivative of that grunge rock sound, but it also relied on hip-hop's rising popularity. Probably the biggest band in nu metal history, Linkin Park, took massive inspiration from the sights and sound of anime. The generation of youth around this time were also the first to grow up on the internet. With YouTube becoming the home of media consumption, fans of both metal and Dragon Ball couldn't combine their two favorite things. Fan-made compilations of fight scenes with In the End or Numb playing in the background became some of the biggest videos on the website. Mike Shinoda of Linkin Park references this scene as a major reason why they became so popular around this time. Now that music culture and anime culture started to find companionship due to Dragon Ball Z and Metal having such a strong audience together, and with the fact that nerd culture was exploding thanks to the MCU and Star Wars having some insane success, references to anime could be expanded upon even further in one of the most progressive genres, hip-hop. Hip-hop has always taken influences from pretty bizarre places. Starting with the Wu-Tang Clan's success with the unique influences and sounds, hip-hop has always been pushing boundaries with music. With media consumption becoming easier than ever, nerd culture becoming the norm, and music breaking traditions at a record-breaking speed, hip-hop artists could find success during hip-hop's peak popularity. Hip-hop has almost always been about masculinity. There's always a competition with your peers and with yourself. Artists in this space are also known for being extremely dramatic in terms of conflict. If two rappers are fighting, it's going to be all over the news. What else has a taste for dramatics and appeals to masculine interests? That's right, Dragon Ball, and other series that focus on fighting. They become some of the most popular, dependable cliches in modern hip-hop. Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, Snoop Dogg, and so many other record-breaking artists reference going Super Saiyan or training like Goku. If you are anything like me, even when I went through a phase where I didn't keep up with the series at all, it is unavoidable. Everywhere you go, someone is wearing a shirt or listening to a song or watching a clip of Dragon Ball. Your favorite celebrities, favorite athletes, and favorite artists all probably grew up on it and were inspired by Dragon Ball Z in some fashion. So with the inevitable decrease in popularity, where does Dragon Ball go from here in terms of pop culture influence? As current artists fade out and other artists that had different influences come in, will media like Dragon Ball survive? Do you think the impact that this media franchise had on music was for the better? Let me know in the comments, and take care.